This is Animus episode 38. I am Aftermath, aka Nick. I'm joined by Greg, aka Aries.
Hello.
I'm also joined by Conor, aka McCrackenware.
Hi.
This week, we have a pretty cool episode, pretty laid back, pretty chill, pretty fun all the same. But first, we want to go through some quick follow-up from last episode. Last episode, we talked about the whole blacklisting by publishers, games media, journalism, blah, 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 blah.
Not games media, Kotaku.
Specifically Kotaku,
difference.
But it
Big
kind
difference
of
between games
expanded
journalism and
into-
Kotaku.
That's actually a fair point. But I mentioned that I could have my mind changed because a person I focused on quite a lot, Jim Sterling, was focusing on that this week with his episode Jimquisition. And my mind hasn't actually changed because he basically built off that and talked more about publishers kind of controlling games and media, which is an issue, and I can see that being an issue, but I don't think that Kotaku's situation is an evidence of that actually being an issue, because the publisher was well within their rights to just stop talking to them. So, yeah, we stand by what we said last week, although in the bigger picture, the whole thing is kind of an issue if you branch off that a bit. Other stuff that happened this week. Luma released a new episode of The Assassin's Den with Jeffrey Yohalem. I haven't listened to it yet personally, although
None of
I
us
have
have
heard
listened
good
to
things.
it, but we're all going to.
Yeah, so we all plan to go to listen to it, but we're all quite busy. Thanksgiving break and all that. But I hear it's a very good episode, so I definitely think you should all go check that out on Luma's channel. That's Assassin's Den. Does he number his episodes? No, he doesn't.
No, he does not.
No, featuring Jeffrey Yohalem.
Yep.
Again.
And I believe you two wanted to say something as well to follow up. Well, not follow up. You wanted to mention something.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to acknowledge the existence of Just Cause 3, which is really cool, and you should all play it. It's not out yet. Well, maybe by the time this goes up. But it comes out on Tuesday, I
December
think. maybe?
1st.
I don't know. December 1st, or
That is
whatever.
Tuesday.
But it looks really good, so go play it, because that looks like a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
I definitely agree. I've been watching some videos on that and it looks like a ton of fun.
Too many games I need to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every year, I'm afraid of which ones are going to not make the cut just by dint of not being the ones I get to.
I've been playing more Fallout 4 as well. Man, that is so much stuff in that game. Like, I don't think I've even made a dent in anything of it. I've been playing for 2 weeks every single time I have any spare time. So that's going well. Can still definitely recommend that. Conor, didn't you want to say something?
Oh, I just, something cool that I did this week is I sent an email to Game Informer Podcast, asked a question, it was answered. So, I'm the emailer that gets Ben Hansen's name wrong. So if you listen to that, watch out for that question. It's fun, I think.
What did you get it wrong as?
I got it wrong as Chris Hansen.
Wait, isn't Chris Hansen the guy from, To Catch a Predator?
I think so. I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person to make that mistake either. And I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I find it less embarrassing, actually, as, knowing that happens a lot. I just find it pretty funny.
Yeah. What episode? Do they number their episodes?
No, but they might, but it was this one, it's probably labeled something like Star Wars predictions and Game of the Year wrap-up, or
Featuring Chris Hansen.
So
I can find it. It's all over the place.
all right, if you throw me a link, I'll throw a link in the description for everybody. Now, moving on to probably will be the main thing we're going to discuss this episode. We're going to talk a little bit about Syndicate's collectibles. The collectibles are always a big part of the AC games because of their open world style, and so the collectibles are a big part of that open world style. It's always been a bit of a point of contention among the fan base, who does the collectibles well, because if they're done badly, they can be done really, really badly. But if they're done well, they can add a lot to the game. I think from what I've heard, a lot of people think that Syndicate did the collectibles quite well. We'll be going through each one individually. I have some notes here about various things. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, do you guys want to mention anything before we get into the nitty-gritty of the things? Anything about collectibles in general do you want to mention?
I guess we can go around and say which game we think before Syndicate did Collectibles the best and which one did it the worst. I personally am of the mind that AC2 did Collectibles the best because it explained all of them and gave them a nice story justification to be there. And the game I think did it the worst is, I'm tempted to say Unity, but yeah, because everything's locked, or it was locked behind all sorts of online walls. I'm going to give my worst Collectibles award to Unity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed how AC4 handled it. I liked the treasure maps. I liked, even though the like Animus fragments, I think they called them in that one, were pretty cool. You know, it wasn't a big thing. It was only to get the cheats, so it wasn't a main thing. But there wasn't any kind of story justification for most of them, but they were really fun. Like the treasure maps were a ton of fun to find. I can't remember. There were also the shanties as well. Was a big one because you had to chase those around. I know that was kind of like a bouncing off point from Benjamin Franklin's Almanacs and AC3, but I kind of liked how AC4 did them a bit better. They were a bit easier, I think, and the way that you could kind of sneak up on them, even though that wasn't intentional, I found it a ton of fun to try and like sneak up on the shanty super slowly. And getting these shanty collectibles were really rewarding because then I had more glorious shanties to listen to as I was sailing around.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's my favorite, but I actually think the AC3's collectibles are pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not even just like necessarily things you could find in the world, but you know, because you'd find the almanac pages and then you'd build something, and I thought that was cool. And I mean, it kind of started that mini parkour challenge that carried over to the shanties and Black Flag. So honorable mention to that. I do think AC2 did it the best. I liked that there were only so many. While also you couldn't just buy a map for them. Because I kind of think that's the point of collectibles, is to make you look for them, not to go find a point on the map and go to it. But I acknowledge, like, when you get more collectibles, that's not really feasible. So Syndicate is also probably up there for me. And worst is probably Unity, although, I don't know. Dishonorable mention for me goes to Rogue. I did not like Rogue's collectibles. They just felt like a chore to me.
They were a bit difficult, although like a lot of them kind of added story past them with the wall editors.
Yeah, it was probably more that they were like over half of the game just because the story was so short.
Yeah.
I think the story integration for them was really good, bordering on AC2 quality, but the amount and the way they were distributed was kind of a little bit annoying. But one thing they did do really well, which has no story justification whatsoever, was prosperity, which was you find these little things around the world and you get experience, or not XP because they didn't have XP back then, but you get money bonuses, which I thought was really neat. That was a nice way to reward exploration in a tangible way.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Although I think you keep saying like AC2 is the best as far as story justification. I think Syndicate is now the best for story justification. I mean,
we did say before Syndicate.
Yes, before Syndicate, but yeah.
I would say that my worst is probably Unity again. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty comparing Syndicate to Unity simply because it was the last one as well, once we get into it. First up on the list, we'll be going through it the same way that they're listed in the progress tracker, so if you want to follow along, that's how. First, we have chests. Now, the interesting thing about the chests is that because of the way they display them on the map, a lot of people weren't certain if they were more or less than Unity. Some people say, yeah, they are, but you can only see them once you zoom in quite a bit, so they aren't like standing out to you and scaring you as soon as you look at the map for the first time. But and other people were like, I don't know, that they seem kind of more dispersed. Well, I actually counted them. There are 294 chests in Unity, and in Syndicate, there are 371 in total.
Oh my god.
So that's included.
I think, though, I think the difference is, for one thing, again, just the map thing is huge. It doesn't make them seem like a necessary must-do thing. Because, the missions stand out in front of it instead of, like, being the same size. Other thing is that there are only, like, 30 or so locked chests. Probably less than that. And those are the only chests that really matter.
26 locked chests.
26 locked chests? Okay, I knew it was somewhere around there. But like in Unity, 90% of the chests almost were locked, and that had that stupid lockpicking minigame.
Yeah.
So I think just the fact that only the locked chests really matter. I feel like the not locked chests are just there for quick money and your resources, which is I'm perfectly fine with. And the fact that whenever you do have to do some lockpicking, it's not that annoying minigame, I think goes a long way towards making them more tolerable.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that in the sheer amount of them, while they actually seem kind of similar, Syndicate actually has almost 80 more in total than Unity, and a lot of people were saying that there's actually less of them. Even myself, I was saying that there were less in Syndicate because of the way they handle them. And I think that kind of shows...
feels like less.
Yeah, it kind of shows how you handle it, and especially on the map and things like that. Definitely impacts quite a bit how overwhelmed people will feel, and just how much of a task it feels like.
And I would even agree exactly.
Like,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, it feels more like in Syndicate, like, something that you can grab on your way to something else rather than something that you have to go to a place to do.
Exactly. And I even think that the actual number of chests does not matter slightly one bit, because what really matters to the player is how overwhelming it feels. So if there are a bunch of chests and it doesn't feel overwhelming, cool, collect as much as you want. But if there are, even 10 that are crammed into such small a space that it feels like, oh my god, there's so many chests, it's going to be bad either way. So the way that they're managed, exactly to both of your points, is more important than how many there are. And I think Syndicate managed them very well, as we'll get to with the rest of the collectibles, that the amount that they were spread out was very well kept track of.
And we'll talk about this more in a second, but even like collecting them myself, that just having like set districts helps a lot, because I can just say to myself, okay, I'll collect all of them in this district, and I'll go back and forth, and then I'll collect all of them in this district, and it makes it feel a lot small. And Unity did have the districts, but they weren't nearly as like set. The only way to find where the border was to look on the map and kind of figure out where the little marker changed. Next, we have lock chests. We talked about those just now. I really like the lock picking is quite a bit better, and so it's less of an issue than in, and the minigame wasn't even that difficult in Unity if you had the right level, but it was still just this little annoying thing you had to do 200 times. Yeah, and even the ones that weren't lock chests were behind locked doors, so you're going to unlock something either way.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, but just because like Syndicate, once you have the lockpicking skill, you can unlock any chest. Whereas in Unity, it's like, okay, I can unlock level 2 chests easily, like at the midpoint of the game. And I think if you're going around getting collectibles, you're probably going to spend a lot of time in the midpoint of the game. Whereas you can't unlock all the chests feasibly until you get that level 3 lockpicking, which you don't get until almost the very end of the game, which is just, I don't know, that's more of like a segregation of content. Like, it's like they want to piece it out to you bit by bit. But if you're just going for collectibles, it's actually really annoying, because it's like, okay, gonna get to this red chest on the map. Well, I can't actually unlock it. Fuck, I ran out of lockpicks. Through that. I mean, I think that's, again, it goes towards the overwhelmingness of it. Because every chest in Unity was like, okay, I've got to come back to this later.
Next up, we have the Helix glitches, which we've talked a little bit about in our spoilercast episode, which you should definitely look to. One thing that's unique about these is that they don't appear on the map by default, and you need to either find them and like see them within Eagle Vision, or you can unlock them using real money or these Helix credits, which is an interesting mechanic, and I want to know what you guys think about this, because like I collected by far the majority. I think only 2 Helix credits I got myself, and then I had to use the free Helix points they give you, and then I unlocked the map. So they're not actually that difficult to find, not like the murder mysteries in Unity, where they're kind of hard to find, or some of the chests in Unity. So what was your guys' experience? Have you guys attempted to collect all the Helix glitches?
I kind of went around them and got some of them as I saw them, but I basically, because of time constraints, didn't set out to get a bunch of Helix glitches. I liked the way that almost, by a miracle of coincidence. A week before the game comes out, we're saying, it'd be a really great way to integrate lore into the story by having them go with, say, I don't know, the Helix collectibles.
Yeah.
And then surprise, that's how it happens. So that I really liked about them, but I didn't spend a lot of time collecting them because I didn't honestly know that they even unlocked anything until about 3/4 of the way through the game. One thing that I don't like about the way Syndicate's database works, just a side note, is that it'll say you've got new entries, but it won't do the pop-up thing like it did back in AC2 and Brotherhood and Revelations and 3, and I think even 4. It shows you the pop-up and a picture of like what you unlocked. If it says I have 100 new database entries, I'm not about to go in and check them, but if I see something for, hey, here's the place you're in, learn more about it, I'll be like, hell yeah! But Syndicate doesn't do that, so it makes me sad.
You have 100 new database entries you haven't checked yet? I get antsy if I get over 3.
I was on a schedule, bro.
So, yeah, there's actually, just looking at it now, there's 180 Helix glitches, which is like way more than I thought there were. Once again, this is calling back to like the way they handle it is really quite important for just like how easy it is to collect and things. And the Assassin Intel, which you get from the Helix glitches, is super cool. Definitely listen to our Spoilercast episode for a full in-depth analysis and a bit more talk about all of them, especially Assassin Intel number 10. All of you know what that's about. I really like that another part of the... What were you saying, Con?
Oh, I just had like the same experience as you, Afty, where, I got most of them just by normal play of the game, which is kind of like how I like collectibles to exist. Not like as a set task, but something you happen upon and you're like, oh, that's cool. And I think, it's if you do like a solid playthrough of the game, like doing all the obvious side content, like gang strongholds and Burra freeing, then you come across like 90% of them just easily. So I don't know, and then I guess it's kind of a little annoying that if you like those last few, it's like I feel like I've got to get the pack now. But again, like I feel like once you get there, you're so far already, and you've already got the Helix credits. It's not a big deal just to pop that little bit. And yeah, I mean, they're always like they're interesting collectibles just because they're not sitting on the ground like most of them are. They're up in the air, so it's always a little bit of a challenge to get to them.
They're good rope launcher puzzles.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So yeah.
And I really like that, like with the Assassin Intel specifically, how like half of them are just the Project Legacy entries, which is really cool for people who haven't experienced that. Now, Project Legacy is obsolete. You don't even like need to check the wiki anymore. All of the info is there in one of the games, which I love. I love having all the lore in the actual games themselves,
which we also talked about on the episode a week before the game came out.
Yep.
Am I wrong to think that there's still some Project Legacy stuff that they haven't had show up in a game yet?
I'll need to. I haven't gone through like and read every single piece other than what's in Syndicate, so I'll need to do that. Maybe we can talk about that a little more in the future with how the inclusion of the Project Legacy info in here changed some of the stuff. But maybe we can. I'm not certain.
Yeah, I do like all the Project Legacy stuff in this game though is to do with the major piece of Eden, which is the Shroud. So it provides background like that's directly relevant to this game.
Mm-hmm. Next up, in terms of collectibles, we have the beer bottles, which you can find in the bars, which are super cool and provide a great source of Sean's snarkiness, which is a ton of fun. Did you guys like the beer bottles?
I didn't realize until Conor pointed out about a week into playing it that they actually have descriptions. And I didn't realize until Conor pointed out a week into playing it that everything has descriptions. I had no idea that, again, in the database, if you dig in there, which I usually do, but again, this time schedule, that every single collectible has a picture or a description to go along with it. And everything is so nice and laid out and given its own little attention to it, which I really appreciated, even if I didn't get to read all of them yet. But I will at some point.
Yeah, I like the beer bottles a lot. for one thing, they're an excuse to go into the pubs and listen to the murder ballads or other things that play in pubs, which I think is it's just a cool little motivation to go and experience a part of the game that you would probably miss. And it's not like sometimes collectibles are accused of like being used to just pad out your world and like cover up unused portions of the map. And I think it's just more in this game. It's more of a way to show players this cool little thing that they did that isn't like a huge thing for their game. It's not like you wouldn't visit the district anyway. Like in Unity, it felt like there was a whole district that was almost completely passed by any meaningful content. And I think Syndicate avoids that with... at least I think that the beer bottles do not fit into that category of like an excuse to go somewhere that the game doesn't naturally take you.
Yeah, so there are 20 beer bottles in total, and every single district has between 2 and 5 of them, which I kind of like, because you know every part of London has a pub. The English sure do love their pubs, so I really like that. It was kind of spread out very well. Like, yeah, as you said, like with Unity, some of the content kind of gravitated towards specific districts, and that one, like the rundown Thieves district, got like a ton of missions, while the more wealthy districts in Unity didn't really get any.
Yeah, and that military district had like nothing in it.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, it's pretty bare and doesn't lend to Unity's strongest aspect, which is the parkour at all. So I can kind of get that, but it's still kind of glaring just that this district feels so unused.
Next up, we have the pressed flowers, which were really cool. We now realize that those were what they were meaning when they said in, what was it, like Kerry Young's interview on the Assassin's Creed podcast, where she said that they're a type of collectible, which when you collect them, they kind of flesh out Evie's character more, which we now know fleshes out her relationship with Henry in particular. There are 30 total pressed flowers in districts ranging between 3 and 6. So they're quite spread out as well. I really like them. What do you guys think of them? I liked how they kind of added that extra level of interaction between Evie and Henry, a bit more of an intimate interaction, how they both were interested in this. And they kind of... I like how all the flowers have descriptions, and then they kind of... Henry and Evie would then discuss the description of it.
Yeah, plus they have a little bit of gameplay. Well, they have a tangible reward as well, which is colors for your outfits, which has always been a big thing for Assassin's Creed since AC2. That's pretty big. I don't know. I just really like going in this game, going through all the outfits and looking at all the colors on them. Kind of could do that in Unity, but I felt like the colors weren't as nice in Unity.
Half the colors in Unity were green, let's be honest, and the one red that was there was way too red. The thing I like about Unity and Syndicate, but more so in Syndicate, is that the different outfits are made of different materials, so the colors will render in different ways, which is really neat.
Yeah.
Again, McCracken, to your point, yes, for sure. Having the flowers serve the gameplay reward of giving you the colors in the game was really nice, as opposed to those stupid cockades in Syndicate, which there were entirely too many of.
Really?
But
it also makes way more sense. You know, you could tell the tailor to imitate this color flower using this dye, and not like look at these rainbow cockades. Throw them at your tailor. Tell him to make your color some kind of green. And he'll,
but sir, these are red, white, and blue. Do as I say.
There's already a cockade on half the outfits you can even wear in Unity. It's like, do I really need 200 more of them? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. Come on, guys.
A coat sewn together entirely out of cockades.
Oh god!
How much support for the revolution can you possibly display?
But I really like the flowers. For those of you who have not finished the game, do not, for the love of God, do the third cutscene until the game is over. I don't know why that isn't locked behind a finish the game wall before you can access that cutscene. It makes no sense, and it ruins the pacing of the story if you do it wrong. But other than that, I really like the pressed flowers and the cutscenes they add.
At a certain point, it's not like a hard thing to see coming. so I'm not like super bothered that I personally did it out of order. But it is like if you watch it and then complete the game, it's like, oh well, there was this. Yeah, because there's a little bit more play in that relationship that happens in the main story that doesn't make sense if you do it out of order.
I think
But, yeah.
it's not entirely out of place because you can certainly see it coming from probably like the halfway point of the game, or even for me when you're in the Kenway house. That's when I was like, yeah, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
But I think the pacing is completely knackered if you do it out of order because there's a step that happens in that cutscene. There's another step that happens after the final sort of boss mission, and those two steps usually don't happen in the opposite order that they happen if you play them final boss and then cutscene with Henry. It just kind of it doesn't sit right with me because there's a certain order to it, and even though you can see it coming, yeah, it's not entirely out of place. It just feels off. And even the cutscene itself, I was watching it with Conor when I collected the final pressed flower, and I just thought, well, that was kind of an underwhelming cutscene. Like I got what they were doing with it, but I just kind of expected another like element to it. It just seemed kind of short and over really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like if it was more impressive as well. I don't know. It's in this weird spot because I feel like, especially with side content for me, it's like I want to get all the side content before I finish the game, and then that I don't know, that goes against my play style. Having this thing that you can't see until you finish the game, but I don't know, it would if the cutscene was more impressive or meaningful or something,
Kind of like
then
fulfilling?
if it was more fulfilling, then I think it would be more acceptable. Like, I mean, we were talking about a little bit about rogue side content, but one of the big problems I had with rogue side content was that there were, because it did the same thing as Black Flag with the fleet missions. There were 3 like 2-hour long fleet missions in Rogue that only unlocked after you finished the game, and there was an outfit locked behind that. And the worst thing about that is that like it requires you to be in the game for like that extra 6 hours. It's not like in Black Flag where it keeps counting when the game shut off. Sadly,
I forgot about that. The what was it called? The 7 Years of War. Kind of naval missions.
Yeah.
I guess that was kind of because like Black Flag is kind of really connected into Uplay, while Rogue was really disconnected from that.
That's probably why it just kind of bothered me because like I was kind of hoping like just because of the Templar aspect, I felt like the outfits were more usable in Rogue, and I kind of wanted to play like some of the final naval missions with that Admiral's outfit on, but it just didn't. Like once I've played through and finished the game already, it's like I don't feel the need to replay these missions at the moment. I just played them. I don't want to replay them just to play it with an outfit.
Yeah,
that kind of defeated my own justification for that, I guess.
I really liked the final Pressed Flowers cinematic. I thought it was a great prologue after I finished the game. It was just kind of
epilogue. You mean
eprologue?
Really? Is that it?
Prologue.
I
Before the game
was
starts,
actually
see this cutscene.
I was
Oh my
actually
God.
thinking about that, trying to decide which one I was meaning. Apparently, I was meaning epilogue.
Oops.
It was a great epilogue, and
Oh, well.
it really capped off that kind of story for me. And I really like just the way I was kind of playing through it, kind of just then spending time in London, just moseying around, real slowly. It was kind of just really fun. I really liked that. I thought it was a great ending cinematic for the game as a whole, really. Next, we have the illustrations, of which there are 50.
50?
Ranging between 4 and 10 per district. I really like the illustrations because they also had their own database entry, and so they kind of just fleshed out the world some more. You know, like the very first one, illustration number 1 is actually just this little drawing of a communist club, and I thought that kind of just added to London. Like, there's not just people going to work, there's also politics going on. There are people that are trying to do kind of good change in the world and try to bring out what they felt would have been a better situation for the workers, and I really liked how the illustrations editor. I haven't gone through all the illustrations personally just yet, but I do really like them. I have collected them all.
Yeah, went through them all briefly whenever I found them, but they're really cool. I mean, I think there's a couple political cartoons in there. There's sketches of like things in Parliament happening. There's sketches of, people from a Scottish regiment in a pub. It's really cool, and they're all historical animation or historical illustrations as well. So it just adds that little bit of history to it, which I always like.
Aries, do you have any thoughts on the illustration?
This is again part of the didn't know that they're actually pictures to go along with it, because I'm so used to the other game's approach of like, here's a collectible, doesn't really have anything, just go collect it. Because I guess one of my issues with the collectibles in Syndicate is, although they're integrated so very well, they're not explained. So no one says like, oh, those are pictures, you can see those. Oh, those are pressed flowers, you can see those. Oh, whatever. The beer bottles aren't really introduced. Nothing is exactly introduced. So I didn't exactly know what to look for. I just kind of ran past one, pressed the circle, ripped it off the wall. So I didn't really know that there was anything beyond it. So I never actually went and looked through them.
Fair enough. At the same time, though, like, people complain now a lot about games holding their hand too much, and I feel like a tutorial specifically about like what all the collectibles do might contribute to that. I mean, some tooltips wouldn't have been out of place. That would have probably been the way to do it.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Tooltips.
It's like, hey, collect these, or like all the collectibles have database entries. Be sure to check them out. But I don't know. Like, I think they're all pretty cool. I'm looking at one right now that, by the way, is Thanksgiving Day, the Illuminations. I don't know what Thanksgiving Day is for Londoners in 1868.
I was reading up about this.
Interesting.
I was actually reading up about this, and I was explaining to my family what Thanksgiving was. And in England, Thanksgiving is any time after that kind of like warrant celebration, and usually after a harvest. So it's probably in the autumn sometime.
Okay.
I really liked how they handled the collectibles with the kind of introduction of them, because I never let my kind of, 3 new database entries go unwatched, and so I saw every single time I collected something, I got a new one, and I saw them filling out slowly, and I actually liked that. They didn't try and explain it to me, didn't try and give me a really long story justification, because for these small things, I don't think a story justification is needed. With like the flowers in AC2 through 3, I kind of, not the flowers, feathers. In AC2 through 3, I kind of liked that because it was a fun, actually like a nice story justification, although 3 is a little shaky. With these, I don't think there needed to be, because, there didn't need to be some reason that Jacob was collecting all these posters off the wall for some reason. Evie, I thought her one was actually, the pressed flowers was actually explained, because I went to go see Henry and he explained to me
just
to go
like,
collect them.
It's the impetus to go do it. And you can spend a lot of time in the open world without ever going to your train as well, so I guess that's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I didn't see that, but...
Yeah, I just think that...
I mean, it doesn't make it bad, it's just... I felt a little bit confused for the first couple times.
It kind of contributes to this thing, like, I feel like I'm somewhat alone in, like, I know some people play Assassin's Creed just to blaze through the whole story and then be done. But I really feel like if you don't take these games slowly and, like, explore the open world and do lots of stuff, then you're not like necessarily to belittle other people's play styles, but I feel like you're not playing the game to get the most out of it, I guess. I mean, you can like what you like, but there's a lot of game there that you miss if you go that way, I guess, is my point. So too bad for you, Aries, this time. Just the fact that you physically couldn't.
But next time I play Syndicate, I'll be able to take it slow and nice, and everything will be perfect, and I'll be able to do all the collectibles and see all the database entries, and everything will be okay.
And next up on the list of collectibles, we have the which you can hear us talk about on the last episode. So if you want to go talk about that, so you can hear about us talk about those last episode 37. Which is a bit mentioning them here would be a bit of a spoiler, so we're gonna just refer to them.
Talk about them. We could
as the
talk about them without talking about the reward. I don't feel like the actual act of going to get them is too spoilery.
Okay.
Or the mechanic associated with them.
Sure.
Yeah, the mechanic is nice. I mean, that's hardly a spoiler.
Yeah, you get little pictures for
that identify where these music boxes are in the world.
No. You're thinking something else. We talk.
Oh, what are you thinking
That's what
of?
you have listed. You have that.
We're looking
listed
at the
after
doc, bro.
illustration.
Shit. I'm actually because I have. Okay, we're going to talk about music boxes in a
I know
second.
what you're thinking of.
I'm
No,
thinking of
that's
something
different.
else.
Yeah, no. Let's talk about the Secrets of London though, because that's hardly a spoiler.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm just watching the progress tracker in game right now. So the we talked about last week, which you should definitely go listen to because it's a ton of fun. But now we're going to talk about the Secrets of London, which
Are you talking about
are
the
really
thing
cool.
that's not the royal correspondence?
Secrets of London? Let me.
Fine, whatever.
The Secrets of London were totally cool. There are 32 of those, and between 4 and 7 of them in every district. These are actually pretty well spread out. I really like them. What do you guys think of them? Now that we are all on the same page again.
I think they're definitely the most fun collectible to go out and get in Syndicate. Because, for one thing, they're not directly on the map. They're kind of... they remind me of some of the collectibles I feel like in Batman Arkham Knight a little bit, where it's like, okay, we will give you some hints as to what you're looking for, but we're not going to show you exactly where it is. And I mean, I could point to several things in Arkham Knight that are like that, or just the Arkham games, just the riddles kind of are like that, Riddler riddles, as well as just some of the quests operate like that, like you're trying to hear a bat screech to find the thing, or you're listening for opera music. And like this is like, okay, here's an image giving you a place to look in London, and and you should be listening for a music box, little jingle to tell you that you're close to it. So I really like just the mechanic behind that.
Yeah, I just really like this. This was the mechanic that was actually used in Infamous, and I think it was Infamous 2.
I was just going to say that.
And I really like them, and I like that they give you both the image and also a riddle, so that for some reason I haven't seen a single person who's actually used the riddle yet, because I couldn't make heads or tails of the riddles. But
one of the church ones helped me.
Oh yeah.
And either may have been City of London or Lambeth or Southwark, but one of those, maybe it was Whitechapel. I don't know. One of the many districts in London, I used one of the riddles to find it in a churchyard.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it in Infamous 1 you'd like hit a pulse and you'd find shards nearby?
Yes, that was also there too.
Was there something else that you're thinking of in Infamous 1?
I'm thinking of when you have to
else.
You have to go find like these mail packages that you need to like. They got like drugs in them or something.
I kind of remember that.
And you have to go, and it just gives you a shot of it.
Yeah, it's just
very similar.
They kind of did that in Second Son too, didn't they? I don't remember exactly what the collection was.
No, they didn't. I don't think they did it as much with that. But the thing about Infamous is that it had.
You go find it.
The thing with Infamous is that it had a very small, nice, condensed world that I really liked the design of. So you could easily, just from a shot, figure out where on the map it was, vaguely, and then go specifically. But with Syndicate, since it's such a big game world, the 3D map really comes into use for the Secrets of London. Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably one of the best gameplay uses of the 3D map, because in Unity it was kind of gimmicky, and like, oh, look, we made it look all artsy and fancy and it's 3D, whatever. But in Syndicate, seeing like, okay,
map's
here...
a better representation of the world, for one thing.
Yeah, exactly. In this district, there's a smokestack here, and if I look at this map, oh yeah, look, here it is vaguely, and then I'll piece it together that way.
I definitely found one by looking at the type of roof it was on and the landmark in the distance, and it was St. Paul's.
Yep.
So there were two places I checked that had like the roof and the landmark, but one was the wrong view. So I went to the other one, and it was there, and it was cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I know. It's like definitely these kind of collectibles make you feel like really intelligent just from figuring it out yourself. And even if like some of them can take. I remember one of them took me like 20 minutes to find, because I think it was one of the ones in Whitechapel, because there are like two major smokestacks in there, and I was looking for both the direction and which smokestack it was, so that was a little difficult. I think
there's one like in a Southwark that's like on a pile of ropes in between like all these indistinct buildings, and like the only identifying feature is that there's a little bit of water nearby. And that one took me a long time to find.
I got that one quite fast, actually, personally.
Really?
Yeah.
There's one that, so I've started Syndicate twice now, and both times it's in Lambeth somewhere, and both times I've played the game, I just like happen across it without even meaning to.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of sad about that one. Like I would like to see what the riddle and the justification is for that, but I just do it.
Yeah, I really liked them. They were just the right amount of difficulty personally. I really liked finding them. I really liked having to look for them at some points. I think only 2 of them I actually had to look up because like some of them were like really indistinct. It was just like a statue, and I was running around Lambeth for upwards of 20 minutes looking for the statue, and I kept finding different statues, and eventually I just looked it up. I think there was only one other that I had to look up, but 30 out of 32 is pretty good, I think. Aries, what was your track record with them? You haven't gotten all of them, did you?
I stopped collecting when I realized, oh shit, if I spend more time on these, I'll never be able to actually finish the game. But I had, I think I got about halfway through. Every day I'd think, okay, let's just take a good 30 minutes out of my game playing and just spend all the time in this district to get all of the boxes there. And actually what I do is I take a picture of the pictures on my phone so I could be able to like look up and down instead of having to run into the menu each time. One thing that Infamous did really well is you could just pull up the picture with a push of a trigger button, which was very useful. If Syndicate, if the mechanic gets taken for a future game, I would also suggest that. But what was the first question? I don't really remember. I got off on a tangent.
What was the track record with did you get?
Oh, about half.
Nice.
Then I gave up.
Now, I just wanted to talk about real quick about the reward for these, because we talked about the rewards for the other ones so far. This one is a very specific kind of nice reward. A lot of people kind of really liked it from what I've seen. We get well, if you don't want to find out personally, you should stop listening right now. But we get the Aegis outfit, which is Minerva's battle outfit from when she would fight in her kinky wars and stuff. And I really like the outfit. I think it's a cool kind of throwback to the first Civ style, and it's a nice thing for Evie to get in particular because she's more of the detective type. So I played as her when I was collecting most of them anyway. And when you're actually in the cinematic to collect it, Jacob's just like, is there one in the back for me too? Which was a fun little nod, which I really liked. I also like that you can get the Aegis cape as well after you've completed the
main story, I think.
The main story, yeah. Because because I saw that there was a locked cape there, and I was worried we were going to get the shroud because that wouldn't really make like any sense at all for her to just wear the shroud around. I was worried it was going to be like another Unity situation with that, with the shroud, the sort of in. But luckily, instead we get something that's kind of like a substitute. It's also a first Civ artifact, but it doesn't have like a major effect on how Evie functions. So I really like those. I really like the outfit, the Aegis in particular. It's got the headpiece in particular looks very Egyptian to me. The rest of it looks
Greek.
Very Greco-Roman. I was talking about this with Katie on Twitter, and she was like, it's all very Greco-Roman though, or classical, and I was like, but the headpiece in particular makes it look like an Egyptian goddess. Did you guys get the Aegis? Well, not at you, Aries. Connor?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
I played through several of the late game missions with it. I don't know. It's weird because it doesn't look like something you'd wear in public.
Doesn't even look like something Evie would wear.
Yeah, I don't know though. I like it a lot. It feels well. It's got this visual glitch that is actually kind of cool. Like I mean, it's not like an actual visual glitch. It's a
the shimmering.
Syndicate-y, Animus-y, Assassin's Creed-y, Animus-y visual glitch. Although I think it's more associated with the first civilization in this case. And I don't know, like, just that alone, for some reason, this outfit made me do something that I don't usually do, which is, like, create my own headcanon about it. And I feel kind of dirty saying that, but I don't know. So that, in my own head, like, I have a justified reason for why she would wear it, I guess. But, yeah, I don't know. So I like it.
You can tell us what it is?
Chameleon stuff. Like,
Oh,
just like
okay.
it could
Nice.
appear as
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
It's the main thing. And it would also kind of justify the silly invisibleness
Yeah.
with Eevee's chameleon skill, but
Personally, I didn't wear the outfit very often because it's really, really conspicuous, and not just because you stand out when you're trying to be stealthy in the shadows. There's this massive white glowing blob, but also being like this gang leader, leading the poor. It looks really strange being more elegant looking than the queen.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking to the queen, I don't think it's exactly very like politically or very polite.
You may bow to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To
One thing it
look
does,
more
I feel like-
eccentric than the and more decorated than the queen.
I feel like it kind of gels with Henry and a related late game character for some of the missions you do with them. It's like just similar enough. It kind of gels with their outfit, and I don't know. Even though it's Egyptian, it feels just exotic, I guess, in such a way that you can be like, okay, this is something that is more aligned with this aspect of Eevee's character, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that personally. Aries, I know you haven't collected it yourself, but you've probably seen it online. What did you?
I really like the design of it. Small detail, I'm just looking at a picture of it here. The gold, I think, is really cool. I like that there's the little Greek key pattern on the, I guess that's the lapel, but not quite. And it's super bright and shiny, and it's the kind of thing I'd imagine that Minerva would wear. Although, granted, it looks a little bit too much like Eevee's default style to think that Minerva would have worn it back in the day. I guess fashion trends don't really go that far out, but I just like the design of it a lot. I think it's well done. The hood, I think the 2 gold rings around is interesting. I don't quite know what to think of it, but I'm just a fan. I would wear this. I liked the Mayan armor in AC4. Not a lot of people did, and this kind of reminds me of that. It's exotic enough and kind of goldy, shiny, fancy. But McCrackaway, to your point, it's a bit weird to think that a gang leader would be wearing something like this. But I think it's cool. I'm a big fan of the design. The only thing that bugs me is that it's hard to get a gauntlet that doesn't just clash with it.
They're all
Because all the
black.
gauntlets are like black and there is a gray one though. There is a gray one. That probably do well.
So I was just checking it out. The shimmering, I personally find it distracting because it's pretty constant. It's like every 3 seconds it shimmers, which I found pretty distracting. And I actually thought my game was broken when I first got it because I didn't. It took me a second to kind of take a closer look and realize that she's not going invisible temporarily as it kind of passes over. It's just shimmering kind of strangely.
What actually, she does become translucent in places when it does that, which is also part of why in my head it works that way. But yeah, you can see things through her. I noticed it, especially I was standing on one of the very green railway bridges over the Thames, and it was very noticeable there. Just like seeing the railway behind her through her leg. I don't know. I think that's actually cool, and I haven't seen a lot of people talk about that. Probably because it's not that noticeable, I guess. Something your mind convinces you isn't true.
And I also want to know what kind of places was Minerva fighting in? Like, wouldn't this outfit get dirty or like?
For Civtech.
She would have been hanging around the Trojan War. She was kind of not really in the trenches, but she was talking to some of the Greeks during those battles. She would have been trudging around with Odysseus a little bit, and also his son Telemachus. As opposed to real battles, she was just kind of out and about, in and around, other expressions, to get to the point of her being not really an outright fighter, but she would have been kind of, with her character being goddess of wisdom and that type of war, as opposed to like Ares, like, brawn, go kill people war. She would have been kind of a little bit behind the scenes. So there's no super upfront armor in this, and I think that's actually kind of okay with her character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, I don't know, if I'm imagining her fighting, I mean, the first Civ are a sci-fi race, so they probably have, I mean, all their pieces of Eden do energy things, so it's I mean, getting dirty is less of a concern, I guess, if that's what we're still talking about. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, also, I just feel like, I don't know. They seem like all their clothing is fantastimagical, so I don't know that. I feel like they've probably transcended petty needs like washing clothes.
Yeah,
Fair
sure.
enough.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
why they
the-
invented humans. Wash my clothes, slave.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, like, that was one of the things in Brotherhood. It's like, we could defeat all these enemies. We could not defeat time. We could wash our clothes forever. We have infinite clothes washing abilities.
Just the inclusion of the Aegis in it, it kind of makes me more interested in finding more about the firsts of history, because they clearly had wars, and we really didn't hear about that before it. So we knew that the humans in the first Civ fought early on, but it sounds like with her having a dedicated battle armor that there were actually wars between the different Isu people, which I'm really interested in. Looking forward to finding out more about the first Civ in future games.
Yeah.
Why is it in London?
Oh, it
Of all
was
the places,
found in
why did
Bath. It was found in Bath, which was site of some very famous Roman baths in England.
Yeah,
and it was brought
the way
to
that
London
Romans
by a
integrated,
guy.
the way that Romans integrated with other cultures when they came across them was they tried to find overlap between their gods and our gods. So there was a deity that the Celtic Britain, I think Breton is the fancy word for it, but that they Proto-English people worshipped called Sulis, and it was basically the equivalent of Minerva. So there was a town called Aquae Sulis, which was basically like, Bath of Sulis. And the goddess that they talked about there was Sulis Minerva. They called her by both names because for the Celts and the Romans, it was like basically the same goddess. So it would make sense that it was found in Bath because that was basically the town that the Romans named after Minerva.
Yeah, I've actually been to Bath, and that
Cool.
that
Theory
gels
checks out.
with what I vaguely remember from the tour of the baths.
Next up, we have the royal correspondence, of which there are 12, all in Westminster itself. I personally didn't get all of these, and I haven't read any of them just yet because they don't ever appear on the map, and you can't buy them to be on the map either. So I haven't found all the royal correspondence yet. I found 11 of 12.
I did find them just for trophy's sake. I didn't find them that interesting though, sadly. I don't know. I don't know. Historical writing can often be very dry, and when I could be out there stabbing people in the face and ramming carriages into people, it's not quite what I want to just take time to do. I'm sure if I was studying Queen Victoria, they would be fantabulous, and I think they're a cool inclusion. I just didn't find them that interesting, I guess.
I'm just looking through it now. Is she sending letters to Mary Lincoln as in, Americans Lincoln?
Yeah, that would have been the same one because roughly the same time
That's very interesting.
was assassinated.
Yeah, she's sending, letters of respect. That's very interesting. I like that little addition, although I'll need to read through the rest of them.
Yeah, kind of cool that they have the link between British royalty and American pseudo royalty. It's neat.
Yeah. So, guys, what did you think of Syndicate's 100% ability, as we might call it? I didn't think that it was as difficult as something like AC3, although it's still quite a chore because there's a lot of stuff. It's just not a lot of difficult stuff.
Well, if you're talking about collectibles, I don't think it's that hard. But if you're talking about pure 100% where you have to do all the optional objectives for all the side content, I think it's ridiculously hard.
Would you like to expand on that a little bit?
Well, just because every Templar hunt, every bounty hunt has an optional objective tied to it. And I mean, the bounty hunts are, if you're doing them right, that's not that hard. But for things like Templar hunts, they can have really annoying ones just because, it can be there's two people, double assassinate them, but it's really hard to find a good route to get there stealthily and double assassinate them.
It's like Burgess and Cockram.
Yeah. Pretty much. I
Yeah.
mean, except this one's more annoying because you can't just reset the checkpoint. You have to
Yeah.
run away and come back if you're going to do it that way.
And they don't have the funny quote, pull up your socks and grab your cocks. The ship is sailing. Brilliant.
So at least,
Brilliant, Darby.
yeah, I mean,
I love you,
all of the, I mean, everything except for, I think, the Templar hunts have the same couple optional objectives for each instance, but the Templar hunts can have some kind of out there ones that can be hard to achieve. So if you're going for like pure 100%, it's going to be a rough trip. But if you just want to get all the collectibles, it's a good game to do that in.
Yeah, definitely. Ares, you kind of like, you didn't really continue it, but from what you saw, what did you think of the 100% ability?
I always go for 100%, except in the case of Unity. So I think it may take a while, but I'll do it, and it'll be fun because it's what you do. You play once through just to play through it, and you play a second time through to 100% it. That's my way to play Assassin's Creed. So however long it takes, I'll get it done. Compared
to Unity in particular, what did you think? Like, Conor, what do you think of Unity's in comparison to Syndicate?
Unity's collectibles were bad.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, that's the long and short of it, I guess. I mean, there are things I liked about them, I guess. Hard pressed to come up with them right now. But overall, they're just kind of annoying and not fun. Whereas Syndicate, I mean, if you just had the music boxes in Syndicate, I would be totally okay with that. The music boxes are 100% better than Unity and anything in Unity. And even the chests in Syndicate are better. So it's I don't think it's a hard comparison to make which one is better than the other. It's pretty obviously Syndicate.
Mm-hmm. And oh hey, knocking my mic. I definitely think that Syndicate's a lot more fun to collect all the collectibles because of the new movement mechanics. Being able to take carriages to different districts, take trains, and take just a rope launcher there, I definitely found way more fun than running everywhere in Unity. Ares, what did you think? Compared to Unity, from what you've seen of Syndicate, what do you think?
Unity, I'm trying to think back to it, has just the overwhelming feeling of, just kind of trudge through and just go pick them all up and get them done as you go, and kind of chart out a time for, okay, I'm going to go and get all the collectibles and just go ahead and do it. But with Syndicate, what I like is that there's so much side stuff. It's so much easier to collect as you go. And I usually try to establish a policy of, if I'm going to some place, I won't fast travel and I'll collect everything that I come across on my way there. And I feel like Syndicate, because the amount of side content is so well portioned with collectibles, that I could probably just go through, and as long as I make sure that I collect everything along my way to missions and side missions, I could probably get most of the stuff just as I go along, instead of having to sit down and go get all the chests after a long beat in the game. So for that, I think the way that, again, we talked about how it feels, the content is spaced out well enough, and in comparison to especially these side missions, that I really don't think it's going to be that much of a chore for me to do it, as long as I follow my rule.
And personally, I really like Syndicate more than I like Unity in pretty much every way. The only collectibles I haven't gotten so far are the ones that don't appear on the map and you can't buy Helix credits for, or use your free Helix credits on. So I really like that, personally. Moving on. The second issue of the Assassin's Creed comic came out this week. Conor, you read it. Could you give us a quick rundown of when it released?
Did read it of when it released. I don't remember when it released. It released probably the beginning of this month, November. So we're probably about to get another one, huh? Bit late, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. But I can give you a quick rundown of the plot.
Yeah, don't try and skip any kind of spoilers, or don't go too in depth.
Well, the main thing is it mostly follows Tom Stoddard. I don't think our modern day foil even gets out of the Animus, and I think the comic is stronger for that. It really follows what he's doing. You get some of her commentary on his actions and on his personality, which is actually kind of good for your deliberate values dissonance, because Tom Stoddard, let me tell you, has some pretty
dissonant values compared to modern ones, and even compared to some of the people he works with, who you get to meet one major other character, another assassin in Salem. See, you get introduced to some major Templars, who, if you know much about the Salem witch trials, shouldn't be too hard to figure out. Hint, they're like the big bad guys, even historically. I think there's a really cool couple things. One of the Templars gives a big bad speech. There's some Piece of Eden shenanigans. And yeah, it ends on a cliffhanger, more to be continued stuff. La-di-da, Bob's your uncle.
There was one inclusion in here which is pretty cool. I believe that Ares, you could tell us a little bit about that specific little inclusion of that little interesting thing.
So from the bits and pieces I've gathered from issue 2 of the comic is that there's some part where a password to get into somewhere is Forest Dark or Dark Forest, which is, among other things in this issue, a direct reference to the opening of the Inferno, in which Dante says, when I had traveled half of our life's way, I found myself in a dark forest, and the path before me was unclear, or something like that. Depending on your translation. So that's a cool little reference. And also, Tom says that he has a copy of the Inferno from who knows where that he liked to read because it made him feel better or something or other. I saw this once a couple weeks ago. But I like that the Inferno is used as a kind of character element to Tom, as well as being a little bit of a plot element with the passcode and stuff like that. Is there anything else that I forgot to touch on about the Inferno in the second comic?
Sounds all right to me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's more than I recognized. You with all the literature you read.
You crazy literature man. Speaking of literature, I think I'm going to read, I keep forgetting, I mix up the title a lot, but I think it's The Man in the High Castle, which is kind of like a alternate history style book about if the Nazis, if the Axis won World War II and for some reason decided to take over America after that, which they really didn't have any plans for in real life. But I've heard really good things.
That's every alternate world Nazi thing, is somehow they capture everything.
Yeah, exactly. Even though they didn't really have any plans to even control Britain entirely.
Yeah, or one thing changed and suddenly they had, like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes people misrepresent how realistic it would have been for the Nazis to succeed. I don't know. Everything is like, oh man, if this one thing had changed, they could have wiped out all of Europe. And it's like, not really.
Well, in the show, I watched the first episode of the show a week ago and never came back to it because I was working on other stuff. They say since the Nazis dropped the bomb, ... XYZ happened. So in this universe, it is because the Nazis had the bomb first, which in reality they never would have done because their physicists all came to America, or at least a decent amount of them did, I think.
Yeah, so it's more like a lot of things changed.
That led to the one tangible change of bomb went to America first.
Yeah, and sorry, that was like my own, like, Jesus Christ, guys, history is a thing. Pay attention.
Yeah, so the show came out just last week. I think they released the full show for Amazon Prime users. The full season, the full first season.
Man, that's another thing to add to the list.
Yeah, exactly. I want to read the book first, though, so I'm going to get started on that pretty soon, I think.
The neat thing about it is that, as opposed to everything else where it's like the Nazis take over all of America, they partition it between the Nazis taking most of the East Coast and even a decent amount of the Midwest to Japan taking over most of the West Coast, California into Nevada and stuff like that. And there's a little neutral zone in between as a buffer, which is neat. But the way they partition off America, I think, is really cool. And I even asked my dad, like, why on earth would so many Japanese and German people move into America like that? Wouldn't they just stay home? My dad said, well, I guess, manifest destiny and all that stuff in America is we had all this Western land and people just kind of went. So if you, win a war against people and say, okay, your land is ours now, people might just kind of go and move over and take people's stuff because I can basically say your things are mine. So you can kick people out of their houses and say, hey, move to America, you'll get free housing, stuff like that. So it's not entirely out of the question.
I'm actually surprised you're not making this comparison I'm thinking of, Gregory, because we spent at least a day in our ancient Greek history class on colonies that the Greeks were doing, and they often did like colonization benefit programs or forced colonization.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah,
So
I didn't
just
think of
like
that.
provide incentive for people to go or make people go to a conquered territory, I think would be a thing that they could do there. I'm confused for a second. How did we get onto this topic? I think I blanked out while
We're talking
the
about literature,
transition.
and I mentioned that I was going to read the book soon.
Oh, okay.
It's a
I
really
could
good
also
premise.
build literature. I am not going to read the comic that Jessica Jones is from, but I'm watching that.
Yeah, I'm watching just.
I really want to watch that show. I really want to watch that
pretty
show.
good
It's
so far.
cool. It's kind of rough if you're a Doctor Who fan, because David.
Oh yeah.
He plays a really good bad guy from what I've seen of him so far, though.
Yeah.
And they do really good cinematography as well in what I've seen to make it more scary.
My
Man.
friend Miranda said that. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, I was saying, man, it's like, wow, man.
Oh, I thought you said and. But anyway, my friend Miranda said that since she'd watched the first couple episodes of Jessica Jones, that Daredevil, as dark and gritty as it is the happy friendship show compared to
It
this.
really is. Like, I mean, Daredevil is so far. I mean, I'm not that far into Jessica Jones, but so far, Daredevil is more like physically. It can be graphic in some places, and it can be dark, but in a way you're used to. Like, because we play Assassin's Creed. You kill thousands of people. If you play any other game, people's heads explode. So that's not all that out of the question. But Jessica Jones just goes into like really fucked up concepts and mental things, like right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it really gets its darkness.
It's crazy because Marvel has, with sort of Daredevil and now with Jessica Jones, completely out DC'd DC. Because if what everyone's saying about Jessica Jones is true, and I suspect it totally is, this is way darker than anything that ever happened in Dark Knight, Batman, or whatever they may have in the Justice League movies. So I think it's kind of crazy that Marvel has really cornered. You got Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man just way the hell out there, hilarious.
Yeah.
Avengers sort of middle of the road, and then you've got Jessica Jones just darkest of darkness, and DC's over here like, we got Batman v Superman coming out next year, guys. Just give us a year. It'll
And
happen.
It's really crazy. It's really crazy for me sometimes to think that like these shows exist in the same world as the Avengers.
Yeah.
Just because they're so different in tone. And one thing I think I haven't watched like The Flash or Arrow at all, but I feel like Marvel has really taken advantage of the TV space as different from movies, because the movies are more general audience. They're all PG-13, whereas with the TV shows, they're really going for like a lot of the market now for like what people call the golden age of television. I mean, despite television not actually being what we watch it on, is like these dark and gritty shows, like starting with Game of Thrones. I mean, that's the market that Marvel is going for, and I think they're really nailing it, especially since Game of Thrones is going to be in a weird spot for a while, with not having books out to build off of.
Yeah, most people I know that have read the books actually stopped watching it because it's so far from the books now. In other stuff, I've been watching this series of documentaries on Netflix, and so I actually found out why British police officers are referred to as bobbies and peelers. That's because the person who created the police force in London was named Robert Peeler, and so they're all named after him, which was interesting. And other things, moving on out of this episode, the Assassin's Creed Syndicate soundtrack is 50% off this weekend if you are listening to it upon release. You can find that on Austin Wintry's Bandcamp, which I definitely recommend you go check it out. We talked about that in episode 36, which was a ton of fun.
Great episode.
Great episode. Definitely go listen to that. Then buy the soundtrack and listen to it on your own. You can talk.
What I hear about the Bandcamp version is that it has some of the songs it will also give you sheet music for, and I guess I didn't know this about Bandcamp, but that seems to be something they do, which is really cool. Sadly, no soothing syrup, which is the song I would like to play
Aw.
most, because clarinet solo. I mean, it's actually something that I feel like I could do for a jury, which is alongside finals, one of the big things that I have to do every semester.
What did you say? A jury?
Jury. That's what it's called. It's like a small performance where they really hone in on like, how good is this person actually? What level should they be at?
Okay, so it's like a Okay.
Yeah.
How do you
And
spell that?
I mean, just Jury.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought I heard. I was just looking for. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as jury duty, whatever.
If you have yet to listen to this album, do yourself a favor and go buy it, because it really is something special. And I think we all agreed on the episode that
One
it is
thing,
one of the best
building off of,
Syndicate or one of the best Assassin's Creed soundtracks out there, if not, maybe the best.
Yeah.
it's definitely up there. I mean, it probably is more consistent than Assassin's Creed 2.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes it better necessarily than Assassin's Creed 2.
Crackaway and I actually went through this, and it turns out most of the music on the AC2 album is stuff that you would never have actually heard in Renaissance Italy.
I mean, it's close-ish.
It's close.
But, like, it's not, like, as much Ezio's era of the Renaissance, just because Ezio's era of the Renaissance is still kind of focused in vocal stuff. I mean, it might have existed, like, instrumental stuff like it at the time, but it would not... I mean, you wouldn't never hear it, but you wouldn't hear it very much, and especially... I don't know. Especially, like, in Syndicate, the comparison is very obvious, because by Syndicate's time, music has become very public, whereas in the Renaissance, it's pretty much a private affair for, like, courts or church. I mean, you have... Or personal, like, in-the-home stuff. It's not as much there's no, like, public concerts or anything. It's just, like, you play in your house, or... if you're an upper class person, that's when you hear actual good music. And I don't know. It's something that I'm probably slightly not quite informed enough about to feel confident in what I'm saying. Because at the moment it's like it's the calm before the storm when my major actually kicks into gear. Where right now I have to take every music major takes the intro survey class for music history. So right now it's not something that I am too comfortable talking about, but probably will in future. Going off the Syndicate soundtrack, though, one thing I saw today on Twitter is that the Jack the Ripper DLC soundtrack now has a track listing on Amazon.
Ooh.
You can't listen to it, but it is not done by Austin Wintory. It is by somebody else.
Brian McCreary.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Sounds familiar. Maybe I'm thinking Brian Tyler. Yeah, different guy.
Possibly.
It's a pretty generic name, personally.
Brian. It's like
Typical
Brad.
Brian.
Brad.
Yeah. Did you
Brian.
guys check out the track list? I didn't check out the track list for fear of spoilers.
No, let's do that right.
not
Actually, yeah,
looked
probably
at it.
maybe spoilers.
Fully
Because
yet.
there were Syndicate spoilers in the track list for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just name spoilers there. Also I saw the trophy list for the Jack the Ripper DLC. I don't think it's spoiler heavy. What it does seem to point to is a new mechanic, frightening people, which I think is cool.
Ooh, nice.
It also says like gain half of the skills or something, which points to new skills, which is cool. And it's something I tweeted about recently. I would like some more skills.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. I was thinking about what they were going to add in the DLC, and I was thinking maybe adding a new area or something like that. But they really can't do that because all the Jack the Ripper murders were in Whitechapel, and that's already a major borough in the game.
But it is a small one, so they could push a little bit north. But
Yeah.
About the scaring people thing, I mean, you can whip out your gun, and that's a crowd event of scare away the bullies.
Yeah,
so
scare the
I don't
bullies.
think that's too out of.
Well,
out
no,
of what
because
we already
there's
have.
actually it's like frighten this many people, and then there's also or killing a brute while he calms his friends.
Oh,
So that is
interesting.
definitely a mechanic.
huh.
And that's interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Jack the Ripper. Watch a documentary on that this week.
Yeah, I hope I get to play it like at the time that it comes out.
Yeah.
Not January.
Because you got some stuff going on in that time.
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to that. We'll be talking a bit more about the Jack the Ripper DLC and how it relates into the main game, I think probably next week or the week after. So that should be really good. Make sure you listen to that episode. Make sure you listen to every episode that we put out, of course.
Is that a discussion after it comes out or discussion
This
before?
Is discussion before, especially after playing the Dreadful Crimes?
Yeah. So, Gregory, you need to do that this week.
I need to finish those.
Yeah.
I'll get on it.
We'll definitely be talking about that.
Now that you're going to be, well, soonish back in Boston.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
And I think that'll do us for this week. Thank you very much for joining us, listeners. I am Aftermath, or Nick to my friends. I have been joined by Aries.
Or Gregory to my friends.
I've also been joined by McCrackenware.
Or Conor to pretty much everybody who listens to this podcast, whether I know you or not.
This has been...
And also my friends.
This has been episode 38 of the Animus podcast. We will see you all next week. Bye-bye!
Bye.
Bye, 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 bye.